important element of project formulation. This input analysis is a topic which is not given in any book with the sufficient material and sufficient focus on this subtopic. But I think that this topic must be taken care of and given due weightage, keeping in view that if you are missing any one of the analysis related to input resource, then it will become very difficult for any startup, any new business to sustain and to grow. So in that case, why at all we need this input analysis? That is important to study, important to discuss. And we usually, whenever we start any particular startup, whenever we think about any new idea, the very first thing comes to our mind is that what are the different things we would be requiring, what are the different elements, what are the different inputs we require at the very first day, at the very first step, and why we require it. Now this answering this why we require it, that is very important to understand in terms of the cost. Say for example, you get some idea of developing a website and then using it for one particular type of service. Now the foremost thing comes to analyze the inputs apart from your knowledge. Knowledge is also an input. That what cost that will come to your input in terms of knowledge. Your personal knowledge you can use, and usually the promoter or the innovator is not calculating the cost of his or her own knowledge, the value. Another thing is that how many people, experts, skilled, unskilled people you will require as an input initially, and what would be the cost of that. And initially, since as a startup you do not have so much of sufficient money or extra money or additional or buffer amount to use, in a free hand manner, so you must be cost cutting track. You must be on cost cutting track as a startup, and that is why you must analyze that what inputs we are requiring, whether we are not using any such kind of input which is a kind of wastage of cost. Apart from this, it is also equally important to understand the risk associated with the input. Now risk of what? Say for example, you established a particular startup firm in an area where you do not have raw material, or if you have raw material, for the time being it is available, so it is not available forever, or if it is available usually, so are there chances that it will not be available in future because of some change in environment, change in technology, change in government norms? So risk associated with inputs. Risk means maybe that some raw material you are using and that raw material is not of the quality. So you must understand these things. Return. If you are employing 3 people or 4 people, right, whether initially you are getting the return, equivalent return or justified return, so that you can manage the manpower cost or material cost. So whether return is, what is the return against that? We will discuss these these factors in very detail in next part of lecture. Sustainability, again, like we discussed in risk, how much sustainable the availability of the input is. Say for example, we will discuss about all inputs in next slide, and whether the availability of those inputs will be there, will be continuous availability. Sustainability means sustainability of the input resources, and that is why we need to study. And alternatives, what are the alternate options available to that particular input? So cost, risk, return, sustainability, and alternatives. So you can very easily understand that this is something which is you must take care of all these five factors. Now, if you look at the typical inputs in startup, on the left side column, you are having all these inputs which are very common and everybody understand. And I have just for your knowledge purpose, I have just tried to put it in M form. M's: man, material, machine, method, money, minutes. This market I have tried to add in this startup case. You can have a discussion on this market as an input, because usually the common sense says that market is output. When you produce a product, then you need market. But my point is something different in this slide, using market as an input, because the information about your demand of the particular product, information that comes from market, and this information is very important. Say for example, you develop any idea, so from where that idea comes, whether that idea is feasible, whether there is any demand in the market, that means whether there is a customer for that particular idea. Is there any customer? Now, you don't need customer at that point of time as an input, but you need information that yes, there is a demand. So that information is very important to learn. And that is why we say, look at the manpower. If you talk about the manpower, human resource, people, employees, so when you start any particular business, you must analyze that how many skilled, how many unskilled, how many professional, how many managerial people you will require at initial stage. And apart from this, it is not that how to select people. You must understand whether the availability of the manpower, the continuous availability of the manpower is there or not. That means the sustainable resources in case of manpower, sustainable resources in case of material. Material means it may be raw material, it may be other material which is required, descriptive material, and supported technical support. It is not that only material is available, but the application of the material and the knowledge is not available, description is not available. Likewise, machine is an input. Machine is not a simple machine. It is basically, it includes all the tools, the level of automation in your startup, and that depends, you need to analyze it, which level of machinery, tools you are going to use, and you need to analyze this input, keeping in view that whether you are getting that there is a requirement of that level of automation or not, the tools are easily available, the maintenance factor is also there or not. If you hire a particular you purchase a machine from America, and then You say that, okay, we will install this machine in Kanpur, so it's fine, no issue. But the problem is whether the maintenance cost, what is the maintenance cost of that machine? Whether the engineers from America they will come, or who will service that machine? So all these kind of input analysis is required, and that is why people go for localized machines, so that the maintenance is very important. Likewise, method, process and technology. We talk about method means we think about the process. We talk about technology. What level of technology of input conversion to output is required? Why we need input analysis? We need input analysis in terms of the method, because we need, with the technology we will process that input to convert into output. So the technology should be compatible with the inputs available, or you can say you must analyze this technology as an input, because keeping in view the available raw material. Say for example, in rural area, if you want to establish a oil mill, right, you understand that mustard seed is available as a raw material in rural area, manpower is available, machines available. Now what technology you should go for? Whether you should go for press technology of extracting oil, or you should go for traditional technology of that 6 volt or 12 volt or 9 volt expeller, which extract the oil from that mustard oil, traditional routine technology. Now you need to analyze it, and this analysis should be based on the previous factors we discussed: cost, risk, return, sustainability, and then alternate means if you are using one type of technology, so what are the other alternates available to that technology in the market? What is the cost of each one? What is the risk associated with each technology? What is the return associated with each technology? What is the sustainability of the technology? How long you will go with that technology? Say for example, we talk about press technology. So you must understand. Say for example, if all the universities of India start focusing on giving 90% budget on online class and equipments in classroom and all, so they must understand that yes, today there is a requirement, but how long this problem is going to continue, this COVID-19? After 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, this problem is going to automatically solve, or decrease. Now in that case, you should not invest that much money into your online equipments, material, technology, so that after 1 year or 2 years that technology become useless, and the investment is not properly utilized. So yes, minimum investment to continue online classes, that is important. You can simply put some online equipments in teacher's office, or provide laptop or something like that. That is all about okay. Okay, so after method you have money. This is important part, because input analysis where you need to analyze money, how much capital you need for your business as an input initially, from where to manage that capital finance, what is the costing of your product of business. Costing, it is not the costing of the product which you manufacture. What is the costing of the input resources? Say for example, manpower. You hire an engineer at the cost of 20,000 rupees. So 20,000 is not the costing of manpower. It is something more than 20,000. Because 20,000 what you pay, plus additional cost that you bear, maybe on morning to evening refreshment, or morning to evening office equipments, so you need to, utilize, invest more than 20,000 rupee of that manpower. Like material, if you purchase material of, say for example, X amount, so for keeping it in your inventory, for maintaining it, you must bear some cost. So it is more than what material cost. So costing is very important. What is the revenue model that you get? Obviously, this is second part. It is not in. It may not be considered as input analysis, but yes, in money, you must understand what is the costing, what is the capital requirement, from where you will get this money, and what is the return that you are expected. Because the return must be in commensurate with the costing, in proportion with the costing. Because if your costing is high and return is low, then your overall idea and startup is going to fail. Then you talk about minutes, time management. This is also one of the input. It is not that you take 1 year to start your business. Take your process in place, because by the time you will miss. And this minutes, this time management is very crucial for a startup. You know, the customer and the demand in the market, economy says that market develops its own alternates if you miss the right opportunity. That means when demand comes in market, you must provide your product, you must exploit that opportunity. If you are missing that time, if you are missing that moment, then market itself will develop alternate, and the demand may not be remaining demand for your product. So time is very important. I can give you some examples on this, time management. Say for example, why there is a corruption in, uh, you know business government licensing. Why businessmen offer corruption, or bribe, or why these officials, or food inspector, or the drug inspector, or the measurement department inspector, or local municipal inspector, police inspector, this inspector, you know inspector Raj is basically a very crucial issue in businesses. Why businessmen offer money to these people? Say for example, as a startup, if you have to take permission from measurement department, right, for your expansion of new project or starting of new project. Now the inspector asks you for some bucks of money as a bribe. You have an option not to give it, but your time management says that business is the business means profit. Profit means the moment it starts giving you return. And if you have decided to start it in a month, that means you have calculated that after 1 month there is a demand of product in market, as Diwali occasion and festival occasion is coming. So your target is to make your product ready at the right time. Now inspector is knowing this thing, that you don't have time, and that is why he is interested in money. So businessman calculate the proper input analysis. Input means the bribe that inspector is asking, and the losses that the businessman can, if the permission is not granted. And every time businessman come to conclusion that if I'll give you X amount of bucks to this inspector, I will be able to maintain, or I will be able to continue my business. I will be able to compensate my losses. Otherwise, I'll be in loss. And this information is very well known to, and that is why I say, if you want to reduce corruption in government, make it time bounded. Make it time bounded. Say for example, one person apply for any license, Make it time bounded, that if within 1 month the concerned department is not processing it, not completing it, either accept it or reject it. If it is 1 month time bound, so then there is a very rare chance of corruption, because the businessman knows it, that if my proposal will be rejected or accepted, I will be knowing within 1 month. So next month he'll again apply, and with a reason. So with this, information technology, ICT, information and communication technology application, online system, you can put this time, and if department is not putting objection on the license would be automatically granted. So in that case you can remove this. So that is why I say minutes for a businessman is very important. Time is very important. So it is not the least factor. It is, I believe, the very important factor, because this leads to success or failure. Market means customer, customer means information about the demand of the product. What is the process of input analysis? Look at, the very important thing is that when you start any new business, you must identify the activities, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 or 20 activities, and you must note it down somewhere as in process, that yes, these are the activities I have to perform, right? Just like when you fill a form of any entrance, then you know that there is a deadline and there is a sequence of activities, that yes, first fill the form online, and then go for online payment, and once the payment portal is okay, second activity, then it will come back and then it will submit. You have different activities in sequence. So you must understand the activities in any startup. You must understand the activities. Once you understand the activities, you will be able to determine the resources for each activity. Say for example, in a startup, you get some idea. Okay, let us develop a software for this particular purpose. Now, what is the first step? You must understand that this is only idea, and the first activity, the activity that you must take care of, that means development of prototype of that software or product. So developing prototype is initial activity. Now in that, in developing prototype, what resources you need, you must understand. And if you determine the resources, that we need 5 resources, then you can understand that how much quantity you require for each one, right? Each individual one. So in developing prototype, say for example, you understand that we need a mentor or expert who can monitor this development of prototype. You need raw material, you need a place, you need some initial bunch of money, seed capital, right? And you need knowledge. If you have knowledge, if you are an engineer, you can develop it, it's good. If you don't have, then you hire some knowledgeable person. Maybe you take from this knowledge from mentor. So you know that to develop prototype, what are the resources? Determine those resources. Then quantify those. That means try to calculate the quantity of each resource, right? So for first activity, you may have 5 or 6 sources, and for each source you have quantity. Say for example, in terms of manpower, for developing prototype, you need manpower, you need 3 people. Now in 3 people, you quantify that you need a technical expert, you need mentor, one mentor, you need 1 expert, you need 2 assistant who can assist you. Similarly, second activity, after prototype, what is the next activity? Then according to Second activity, what are the resources? Quantify it. Third activity, resources, quantify it. Fourth activity, resources, quantify it. So this process is a very important process of identifying the activities, resources, and quantifying it. And this quantity will help you in cost estimate, cost calculation, and this will help you in input analysis. Looking at each one, identify activity, manpower, whether for first activity you need manpower or not, you need material or not, you need machine or not, you need method or not. Simply identifying activities. Say for example, in prototype you need material, so you can say that tick yes, 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 yes. And likewise, you can understand that you need time, yes. Market, you don't need, no issue. Resources, manpower, you need, yes. How many? Quantity of those, right? Material, you need it. Determine the resources for the material, what are the different materials, and then you quantify how much, right? So for each one, you need to identify that whether this resource is input is required in this activity or not. Then you need to determine the resources, that from where you can get this input and how much, in how much quantity you will need it. So that is why I say that it becomes very important to understand that what is input analysis, how to go for input analysis. Even though this was a very small topic, I tried to focus on the essence of this particular input analysis. So this is all about on input analysis.